A genius-level bank robber outsmarts the FBI at every turn, never realizing he's about to become America's public enemy #1. He walks into banks in broad daylight, stays calm under pressure, and disappears before authorities can even react. To the public, he's bold and almost untouchable. To the authorities, he's an embarrassment that must be stopped at any cost. While federal agents build a nationwide manhunt to bring him down, he treats every robbery like a calculated game of chess, always thinking 10 moves ahead. Every escape boosts his confidence, every headline fuels his legend, and every close call only sharpens his strategy. But the smarter he plays, the bigger the target on his back becomes. And when the entire country is watching, one mistake is all it takes to bring a mastermind crashing down. The movie begins in 1933 as John Dillinger is escorted back to Indiana State Prison in handcuffs alongside his partner, Red Hamilton. On the surface, it appears to be a routine transfer, but it is the beginning of a carefully planned breakout. Red disguises himself to gain access to the prison facility. Inside the prison walls, tension quietly builds. In one of the work areas, a prisoner receives a box and discreetly opens it. There are multiple firearms hidden inside it. He secretly distributes the weapons among selected inmates, preparing them for what is about to unfold. Without warning, the prisoners launch their attack. Officers are ambushed and forced toward the changing room as havoc erupts through the corridors. During entering, the prison ward recognizes John Dillinger and comments on how recently he was released on parole after serving here. Realizing his cover is blown, John reacts instantly. He lunges at the wads while Red holds him at gunpoint. They push deeper inside the prison and regroup with the armed inmates. John acknowledges Walter for helping orchestrate the plan, and the inmates take the captured officers off their uniforms. Tensions rise when one inmate begins arguing with an officer. John attempts to calm the situation, but in the struggle, the inmate fires his weapon and kills the officer. The gunshot triggers the alarm system, and sirens echo throughout the prison. John moves with surprising composure while the other inmates rush after him in panic. Outside, a fierce gunfight erupts between the escapees and the armed tower guards. Bullets fly in every direction. Walter is struck by gunfire as he tries to reach the getaway vehicle. John grabs his wounded partner's hand, but Walter understands his injuries are fatal and urges him to let go. After a painful moment of hesitation, John releases his grip and is forced to leave him behind. Overcome with anger, John blames the inmate whose reckless action led to Walter's death. He strikes the man and throws him out of the car before speeding away.
How far's the farm?
3.2 miles.
Meanwhile, the focus shifts to another fugitive, Charles Floyd, who is running through dense woods while being pursued by federal agents. Floyd fires shots behind him in a desperate attempt to slow them down, and the agents return fire as they close in. He breaks through the trees and reaches a large orchard, still determined to escape. One of the agents, Melvin Purvis, suddenly halts and steadies his aim, carefully tracking Floyd's movement. With a calculated shot, he fires Charles Floyd. The bullet strikes Floyd in the stomach, and the fugitive collapses onto the ground. Gravely wounded, Floyd is questioned about his associates. Realizing death is imminent, he refuses to reveal any information, choosing silence over betrayal.
You're under arrest.
This is Charles.
I'm with your friend, Harry Campbell.
Back in Chicago, John and his crew arrive at their hideout. John inspects some weapons, ensuring everything is prepared for their next move. Red handles negotiations with their car dealer, Harry, making certain they obtain a legitimate vehicle that will not gain attention. John also meets with a corrupt police officer who criticizes the sloppy prison escape and warns that authorities are intensifying their search. Rather than argue, John hands over cash to secure the officer's silence and cooperation. The following day, the crew targets the largest bank in the area. They storm inside with guns drawn, commanding everyone to lie face down on the floor. Panic spreads across the room as customers and employees comply. John marches straight to the bank manager, presses a gun against him, and forces him toward the vault. Under threat, the manager unlocks it. The crew rapidly fills the stacks of cash into waiting bags. When the manager hesitates and attempts to stall, John strikes him with his gun, making it clear that survival depends on obedience and fear silences any further resistance. Outside, one of the crew members stands guard, armed and conscious, and scans the area carefully. In the distance, he notices some vehicles approaching at high speed. His expression changes as he realizes law enforcement is converging on the bank. Inside the bank, tension spikes as the crew member begins hitting on the door, urgently signaling that the police have arrived and they must leave immediately. Despite the warning, the crew keeps filling the stacks of cash into their waiting bags, unwilling to abandon even a single bundle. Finally, John Dillinger rises and commands everyone to move out. He refuses to walk out unprotected and drags the bank manager along as a human shield. On their way to the exit, John notices a frightened customer attempting to conceal his personal money. Rather than react violently, he clarifies that he is only targeting the bank's funds, not the savings of ordinary people.
Not here for your money, here for the bank's money.
The moment is brief, but reinforces the image he wants the public to see. At the entrance, the armed member stands guard when a police officer cautiously approaches the doorway. The man instantly reacts, draws his weapon, and aims directly at the officer. Without hesitation, he unleashes rapid gunfire toward the advancing police, forcing them to take cover and keeping them at a distance. John and the rest of the crew step outside with the bank manager. To strengthen their shield, they also bring some customers from inside the bank. The presence of innocent hostages makes the officers hesitate in taking action. The police lower their fire, unwilling to risk civilian lives. Using that split second of uncertainty, the crew reaches their cars and jumps inside. Engines roar to life, and the vehicles speed away. Gunshots echo through the streets as officers attempt to respond, but the John's crew vehicles are faster and quickly create distance. The chase fades as John and his crew disappear down the road. After driving far away, they finally reach into a secluded forest. There, John and his crew tie the hostages to a tree, ensuring they will eventually be found, but leaving them stranded. With no time to waste, the crew vanishes once again, staying one step ahead of the law. The scene changes to Washington, D.C., where J. Edgar Hoover, an officer of the Bureau of Investigation, seeks increased government funding. His request is denied as officials challenge his effectiveness and question how many criminals he has personally captured. Unable to provide a strong answer, Hoover leaves frustrated and determined to transform his bureau into a dominant national force.
How many have you apprehended?
213 wanted felons.
No, I mean you. How many have you arrested personally?
I have never arrested anybody.
Back at headquarters, Hoover encounters Melvin Purvis. Using Floyd's recent takedown as an opportunity, Hoover formally assigns John's case to Purvis, placing his trust in him to end the notorious outlaw's crime spree.
Are you up to that task, Agent Purvis?
Absolutely.
Outside, reporters gather, eagerly waiting for updates. Hoover introduces Purvis to the press and publicly declares that he is now leading the hunt of John Dillinger. Purvis confidently assures the media that John's capture is only a matter of time, projecting determination and authority.
John Dillinger is a lot smarter and a lot tougher.
We will get it.
What makes you so sure?
Meanwhile, John relaxes at a restaurant when a man named Alvin Karpis approaches him with a kidnapping proposal. John dismisses the idea, understanding that such crimes would turn public opinion against him. Alvin Karpis then mentions a federal mail train carrying government reserve shipments. This detail immediately captures John's interest, and he instructs Alvin Karpis to keep him informed about the opportunity.
I don't like kidnapping.
We also got a mail train we're looking at too. About $1,700,000.
Keep me in mind on the train, won't you? All right.
Meanwhile, John notices a striking young woman named Billy Frechette. He approaches her confidently and offers her a drink. They share a dance, and the chemistry between them is undeniable. After leaving together, they head to a quiet place to eat and talk. During their conversation, she inquires about John's and his way of living. Instead of hiding the truth, John openly admits his real identity and his involvement in bank robberies.
What is it exactly you do for a living?
John Dillinger robbed banks.
His honesty leaves her unsettled, and she questions why he would reveal such dangerous information to her. John makes it clear through his tone and demeanor that he does not want deception between them. As the night ends, he briefly parts ways with her and meets a man named Gilbert Katina, who informs him about a partnership with a man named Frank Nitti present there. John listens carefully, but remains cautious. Another man named Phil DeAndrea approaches him and talks about his bank robberies. He tells John that Gilbert has connections with him, so John can easily track him down. When John steps back outside, he realizes Billy has already left from there. On the investigative front, Purvis begins tracing John's trail, using a coat that John had given to one of the hostages during the previous bank robbery. The garment becomes a crucial lead. Purvis also develops a plan to apprehend Harry, John's car dealer, hoping to cut off one of his key resources and close in quickly.
By Schrag Quality out of St. Louis.
Are identifying every store that sold this overcoat. Then,
At the same time, John locates Billy working at a restaurant performing her coat check service. She attempts to avoid him, hurt by his earlier behavior when he left her waiting outside and implied she was not important to him. A man interferes while trying to retrieve his coat, but John forcefully handles the situation and hands over the garment. Billy watches, conflicted, and reveals she doesn't trust him yet. Hearing this, John reveals personal details about his life. His persistence and sincerity leave an impression on Billy. Eventually, she chooses to go with him. They retreat to his hotel room, where John presents her with a luxurious fur coat as a gift. Their connection deepens, and their relationship moves to an intimate and committed level. On the other hand, the hunt intensifies as Melvin Purvis receives a tip about John Dillinger's possible location. Acting quickly, he and his team head to a hotel to verify the lead. Melvin knocks on one of the doors, and a young woman answers him. Melvin calmly questions whether she is alone. She allows him to come inside, and Melvin encounters a man named George Nelson eating food, claiming he likely recognizes Melvin because of his recent popularity. To appear cooperative, he encourages the woman to present his driving license to Melvin. Satisfied for the moment, Melvin steps away and instructs one of his agents to guard the door while he gathers the rest of the team. However, the situation turns deadly within seconds. While Melvin is gone, the agent enters inside, and just then Nelson, with an accomplice, Tommy Carroll, suddenly opens fire, killing the agent stationed outside. Hearing the gunshot, Melvin rushes back, but by the time he re-enters the building, the criminals have already escaped. He fires at their speeding car but fails to stop them. Meanwhile, John Dillinger continues his crime spree with growing confidence. Feeling unstoppable, he storms into yet another bank with his gang. Calm and methodical, they control the building and collect the money without significant resistance. Their efficiency reinforces John's legend as a daring outlaw who repeatedly humiliates law enforcement. Back in Washington, J. Edgar Hoover grows increasingly furious. He contacts Melvin and reprimands him for allowing John to rob another bank while also failing to capture Nelson. The pressure is mounting, and Hoover's reputation is on the line. Melvin accepts responsibility but firmly argues that the failures stem from the Bureau's reliance on inexperienced agents. He insists that only highly qualified officers should remain on his task force. Hoover initially resists, citing limitations, but Melvin warns that selecting inexperienced agents only leads to their slaughter.
$74,000 while you failed to arrest Nell, a modern force of professional young men of the best sort.
Without qualified help.
Mr. Tulson will call you Agent Purvis.
Eventually, Hoover concedes, and the next day, Melvin personally travels to the railway station to welcome seasoned lawman Charles Winstead as reinforcement, strengthening the pursuit. Meanwhile, in Tucson, Arizona, John and his crew visit a county fairground to place bets on a live horse race. The environment feels almost carefree. There, John encounters familiar associates, including Phil D'Andrea and Frank Nitti. Phil invites him as an honored guest, while John agrees under one condition that no photographs will be taken. When John's partner, Homer, jokes about news finding him even dead, the comment unsettles Billy. Billy Frechette begins to grasp how deeply entangled John is in a deadly lifestyle. She expresses concern about witnessing his inevitable downfall. John reassures her with confidence, insisting he will grow old and remain by her side.
You hear me? I'm gonna die an old man in your arms. I ain't going nowhere.
He then escorts her back to their hotel, attempting to create a brief illusion of normalcy. That illusion shatters abruptly as county deputies raid their hotel rooms and arrest them. When John is brought outside in custody, he learns from his crew that the local firemen tipped off authorities after noticing suspicious weapons. Entering into a prison, John anxiously inquires about Billy and is informed that she has been placed on a bus back to Chicago. Soon after, Melvin visits John in the prison, and the encounter is tense. John surprises Melvin by demonstrating how much he already knows about the agent's movements and strategies. Melvin remains composed and informs him that when he will escape the prison, the ultimate outcome awaiting him is execution. With that grim reminder, Melvin departs from there.
The only way that you would leave a jail is to execute you. I'm used to that.
After that, John is extradited to Indiana. As he is transported, crowds gather along the route, eager to catch a glimpse of the infamous John Dillinger. He waves confidently, almost like a celebrity acknowledging fans.
Did you smuggle the guns into Indiana State Penitentiary?
I held up a grocery store, which I never should have done, and they sentenced me to 10 years in the state penitentiary. I was in prison, though.
After that, inside prison walls, John meets with his attorney named Louis Paquette and ensures his transfer to another prison should be canceled.
They're gonna try and transfer me to the state pen.
The scene changes to the court proceedings, where the authorities argue to move John to a more secure facility because they believe he would escape. But Louis Paquette successfully argued in court to keep John at the Lake County Jail in Crown Point, Indiana. After that, John puts his escape plan into motion. Alongside another inmate, he takes a guard hostage and forces him to unlock a secure door. Once inside, they overpower a second guard and seize his weapon. They then capture the warden and compel him to guide them to the weapons storage area. There, they arm themselves with powerful firearms. Moving swiftly, they change into official uniforms to avoid suspicion. With remarkable composure, they exit through the back of the facility. They climb into a sheriff's car and drive away panicking, passing other officers who remain unaware of the deception. Within minutes, they are beyond the prison walls, vanishing once again and proving that John's audacity knows no limits. After escaping once again, John Dillinger wastes no time. The very first thing he does is call Billy Frechette, who is under police surveillance, and inform her that he plans to see her soon. Billy urgently warns him that the police are searching for him across Chicago and that it would be far too dangerous for him to come anywhere near her. John refuses to reconsider and insists that nothing will prevent him from seeing her. What neither of them realizes is that federal agents are secretly monitoring the call. The recorded conversation is immediately delivered to Melvin Purvis. After reviewing it, Melvin quickly concludes that John's attachment to Billy will lead him straight into a trap. After that, John goes to meet Phil D'Andrea, hoping for assistance from him. However, Phil refuses as John's growing popularity has drawn too much government attention, and associated with him risks destroying their carefully hidden criminal operations. John leaves without help, increasingly isolated. His ties with Chicago outfit gets severe, forcing him and Red Hamilton to seek money elsewhere. In Washington, J. Edgar Hoover grows furious over the ongoing John Dillinger's chaos. He grants Melvin full authority to intensify the manhunt. Hoover orders him to round up members of John's extended network, including families. Despite the heat closing in, John does not stop and keeps acting upon his plans. The following day, John, along with Nelson and Carol, move forward to rob a bank. They enter, take control of the building, and open fires to create terror. However, the police arrive there and the crew uses the same tactics, using the innocent civilians as shields and tries to escape. When John and his crew get outside, chaos erupts instantly as gunshots explode from every direction. During this, Carol gets shot by a bullet while John checks on him. Meanwhile, an officer from above the building shoots at John, and it hits on his arm. Despite his injury, John opens fire, and the crew keeps shooting and manages to pull away from the deadly crossfire. They retreat in a frantic escape, leaving Carol behind, thinking he is already dead. The crew returns to their hideout in Manitowish Waters, Wisconsin, where Red Hamilton tends to John's wounded arm. Frustration fills the room when they realize their haul is significantly less than expected. John tells Nelson and others to leave his share and leaves. He talks to Red Hamilton and remarks he hopes he can free the rest from prison, including Pierpont and Mackley. But Red Hamilton convinces him this is unlikely.
No, we don't get out of here first thing in the morning. God damn it, don't talk like that, Red.
Feeling that my time is up.
Meanwhile, at a hospital, Carol is still alive but injured and is under federal custody. While he is crying in pain, the officers question him about John's whereabouts. The doctor wants to treat Carol, but Martin refuses to allow proper medical treatment and instead threatens to arrest him. Under severe agony and pressure, Carol eventually discloses John's hideout location. Armed with this critical information, Melvin quickly mobilizes his entire team and prepares for a decisive raid. Back at the hideout, John rests while staring at Billy's photograph and listening to music. Suddenly, Melvin and his officers quietly approach the property. They move cautiously, surrounding the area. Melvin notices several men exiting the building and getting into a car. He immediately fires and orders them to halt. However, the gunshots echo through the property. Inside, the noise jolts John awake, and he instantly understands the police have arrived. Gunfire erupts from both sides. Amid the chaos, John and Red Hamilton attempt to escape through the back. Hiding behind a car, when Melvin spots movement, he assumes it is John fleeing and orders Charles Winstead to pursue him and Red Hamilton. Winstead charges after them, firing repeatedly, and a brutal exchange unfolds in the woods. John takes cover behind a tree and returns fire, but Winstead skillfully avoids being hit by dropping flat to the ground. As John prepares to run again, Winstead fires another volley, and one of the bullets strikes Red Hamilton. Despite the intense situation, John refuses to abandon him. He drags Red Hamilton through the trees and manages to escape from that direction. At the same time, Nelson gathers his crew members from the road into the stolen vehicle and attempts to escape. Melvin spots them and initiates a high-speed chase. The pursuit turns brutal, with both sides firing at each other through open windows. Bullets shatter glass and tear through metal as the cars race down the road. During the intense exchange, Nelson loses control and his car flips violently. Melvin steps out of his vehicle heroically and advances. One by one, he shoots Nelson's crew members, and finally, he confronts Nelson himself and shoots him. Far away, John and Red Hamilton are in a car while Red Hamilton is taking his final breaths. With fading strength, he urges John to leave him behind and escape while there is still time. He also advises him to let go of Billy, believing he will only bring more danger into her life.
You gotta let go, John. You gotta let Billy go, too. You gotta let go.
However, John refuses to abandon him. Red Hamilton acknowledges that John is like this, but now the moment has come. Slowly, Red Hamilton dies beside John, and for the first time, John begins to break down. Feeling isolated. Elsewhere, Melvin Purvis informs his fellow officers that John's crew is effectively destroyed. With his closest allies dead, Melvin predicts that John, now feeling exposed and vulnerable, will inevitably attempt to reunite with Billy Frechette. He understands that emotional attachment is now John's greatest weakness. Not long after, Melvin's assumption proves correct as John secretly meets Billy. The police are outside Billy's apartment, keeping a close eye on her. However, Billy covers herself, and the successful reunion is emotional, filled with relief and longing. They go to a quiet beach where John expresses his desire to disappear with her, far away from crime and pursuit. Billy suggests fleeing to Cuba, but John envisions going somewhere even more distant.
We can get out of here.
Like Cuba?
Maybe further. It's a big job. A lot of dough.
He plans to commit one more robbery to pay enough for them to escape together. The following morning, John drops Billy, and she enters her apartment. The moment she steps inside, some police officers arrest her. When they demand to know who brought her there, she falsely claims she arrived by taxi. The officers remain unaware that John Dillinger is nearby and arrest her. From a distance, John watches helplessly as he grips his gun, contemplating action, but ultimately lowers it. He realizes he alone can do nothing as they take Billy away. Overwhelmed, John returns to his vehicle and breaks down in grief. At the station, some officers brutally interrogate Billy, pressuring her to reveal where she planned to meet John. Under intense abuse, she gives them her apartment address. The police immediately decide to head there, but Melvin is absent, still traveling back from Indiana. When officers search the apartment, they find it empty. Frustrated, they return and start tormenting Billy. However, Billy finally reveals that John had been nearby when she was arrested, and that they unknowingly passed him. When she refuses to reveal John's whereabouts, the officer becomes violent, and Purvis eventually comes back and furiously intervenes to stop the abusive and violent interrogation. On the other hand, a woman named Anna Sage, who is John's connection, is worried about her deportation to Romania. Melvin arranges a meeting with her and seeks a deal to catch John, ensuring he can influence his own actions but cannot fully control immigration authorities. Desperate, Anna agrees to cooperate with him. She will help identify and lure John in exchange for her deportation cancellation. Later, John receives a letter from Billy delivered through Louis Paquette, in which she urges him not to attempt a rescue as she will be released in 2 years. After that, John meets Alvin Karpus to discuss a federal mail train carrying government reserve shipments. However, when he returns to his hideout, he encounters Anna waiting there. Together, they plan to attend a movie screening. Unbeknownst to John, Anna secretly contacts Melvin and reveals the plan. Melvin gathers his team and outlines the strategy. He explains how they will identify Anna and warns everyone that John will be armed and extremely dangerous.
Anna Sage will be with him. He will be armed and extremely dangerous.
Earlier that afternoon, John makes a bold visit to the police station while it is nearly empty. Calmly, he scans information related to his own case and looks at photographs of his deceased crew members. He casually questions a few officers about a match score before leaving unnoticed, once again demonstrating his audacity. As night falls, the officers wait anxiously outside the theater, but John has not yet appeared. Melvin grows impatient while waiting in his car. Finally, he spots Anna arriving with John. They enter the theater together and take their seats as the film begins. Outside, Melvin Purvis reviews the plan with his agents. When the movie ends, John exits the theater with others. As he steps into the crowd walking, Charles Winstead fires a fatal shot into his head while Melvin also shoots him. John collapses to the pavement, gravely wounded. In his final moments, he whispers something into Winstead's ear. When Melvin questions what John tells him before dying, Winstead claims he couldn't hear him. The next day, Winstead visits Billy in the prison. She becomes furious, fully aware that he killed John Dillinger. Winstead explains he has not come to provoke her, but to deliver John's final message. Before dying, John had softly uttered the words, "Bye-bye, Blackbird."
Tell Billy for me. Bye-bye, Blackbird.
Hearing this, Billy breaks down in tears, mourning her love.